Like, man, if I could teach one Humber class, it would just be like having fun with music. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because it's such a, it gets beat out of you. Like I was talking about before, either with gigging or sometimes with school. I felt pretty burnt out when I went to Humber, but yeah, it's not talked about a lot, the fun of playing music or the actual joy of like, sitting with a bass or sitting with a guitar or just like jamming with some friends.
This is all about the song. Welcome to the 133rd episode of All About the Song. I am your host, Michael McDonnell, and thank you for joining us. On the podcast today, we have Alex St. Kitts, aka Alexander St. I will be very honest with you. We both live in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. We have new COVID-19 lockdown measures. Things are not looking great. There are no live streams allowed. There's no live music. We're not really even allowed to go outdoors outside of just going for general exercise, which understandably makes sense. But when it comes down to doing a music podcast and trying to keep it light, I really needed to just talk to a friend today. And Alex has always been he has a really great opinion on music. He's a really great story. And not that it's important to take advantage of the time we have, but he has. And recently he performed alongside a really great lineup of artists for a live stream session called Lost Tapes Live. He, along with John Harvey, Francesco Yates, Tyler Shaw, Fifi Dobson, Dan Cantor, the Command Sisters, and a couple other groups all did these incredible live streams. And I wanted to get Alex to talk about that. He has also been doing master classes for bass. He has done 2 so far, and there's a 3rd one that's coming up. I took part in the first one. It was so much fun, and it was really cool to be among a virtual community of bass players. And he has also put out an album called Dumb Bass, which is something that I know the bass community has been... We've all been waiting for Alex to just go off and record an album like this. Like, not go off to record it, but just go off. And he hasn't disappointed. He's really done or maximized the time we've had to develop in the artist that he wanted to be. It was a really fantastic conversation. I knew it would be, and I'm excited to bring it to you today. We are bringing the video of this episode on YouTube. The Sounds Like Songs Network is where you're watching it. Please subscribe, hit the like button. We are, I think, at 100 subscribers, which is absolutely fantastic. And thank you to each and every one of you who has been watching. It has been an incredible journey moving to video amongst a lockdown. What a great idea. But we've done it, and it's been absolutely fantastic. So here we are, episode 133 of All About the Song, featuring Alex St. Kitts, aka Alexander St. Alex St. Kitts, Alexander St., thank you for being on the podcast. You've had a lot of stuff going on. It's been really cool. I said this to you before, but I think it was I needed to talk to a friend today and just have a nice, cool, relaxing conversation with a friend.
Some coffee.
Yeah, cheers. Cheers to the coffee.
Cheers, man.
So, I mean, there's a lot going on. For those not listening in Canada or in Ontario to this podcast, there's a lot going on with like COVID restrictions and stuff like that. And I think we're all a little bit burnt out. This is also the first time that musical live stream restrictions have taken place. And not to say that getting together and playing music is like the most important thing in the world, but to us it's kind of important. And we did, instead of dwelling on the negative right now, that there are some positives, because I think that the two of us, we've had a couple of really cool opportunities in the last little while to do some really cool things.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I wanted to ask you about the Lost Tapes Live that you did.
Yeah, for sure. It was a really cool initiative put on by Lemon Entertainment and this non-for-profit charity called Over the Board, and they deal with musicians' health and mental health issues and raising awareness. And that's kind of what that show was about. It was about touching base on the fact that, Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison and Amy Winehouse and all these people that died at like the 27 Club. What would have their music been like if there was more awareness for mental health and more awareness to help them get through it, as opposed to, having them tragically pass away at that age. So that show was really cool because I got to play a Jimi Hendrix song. And also they had an AI program write a song as Jimi Hendrix. Yeah. So if he had lived to now, what it would have sounded like if he was still writing music, which is really cool. Very weird. I mean, and the cool thing was, the music sounded like, I was like, okay, that's Jimi Hendrix. And then you listen to the lyrics and you're like, there's something kind of off.
Well, and that's cool. That was, I think, Ace Piva had something to do with that.
Right. Yeah.
Ace has been on the podcast. He was like episode 4 or something like that.
He's a great dude. He's a nice dude, man.
He's a really nice dude, and he's doing some really great initiatives. I think it's Over the Bridge. I'll put a link in the I'll put a link in the description with regards to it, because he does some really cool things. And he's as another person. I think such a great idea, and there is a lot to why musicians play music, and it is true that there are a lot of artists that are celebrated to this day and age regularly. And they died a really, really long time ago. And I think that we do get a lot of pleasure from their pain.
Yeah, that's something that they asked me. I got to do an interview about Jimi Hendrix and mental health in the music industry. And one of the questions was like, do you think that these musicians are glorified, and this year that they died has made them into legends because of it? And yeah, of course it has. And it's not healthy. It's not a healthy perception for people to think of musicians. And I think for musicians themselves, I remember when, it's not exactly the same, but I remember when I was, really trying to be a famous bass player, and I wasn't good enough at 21, and Jaco Pastorius had made his own album and done all this crazy stuff by then. I felt like I was nothing, right? And I feel like a lot of musicians feel the same. If they haven't done anything by 27, if you're not a crazy, amazing artist or, somebody prolific, then you haven't made it, which is garbage. Straight garbage.
Yeah. What's funny is and I might have told you that before this, but I went to a show where the first time I saw you perform, I was in the throngs of that feeling. And I remember you were performing with JP Sax at the Drake Underground.
Oh, wow.
And I was there, and I just I had that feeling. I was like, this is never going to work. This is never going to happen. And I was watching the both of you perform, and I was like, they're good, but how are they going to do it? And it was so defeatist. And, to turn a negative into a positive, it's also been so fantastic. And I'm so encouraged. And I almost, it's like a pep talk to my 26-year-old self, saying remember how you were so defeated watching these two artists that continue to blossom? Respectively, both of you have done absolutely incredible things since then. And it's always a reminder that it's hey, just because you haven't completed your life work at 27 doesn't mean that you're any less of a human, and it doesn't mean that you don't have these incredible things that are going to come up in your life.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a fine line between it really pushing you, because in our world, of course I have rivals that might beat me down every time I see, oh man, this person is doing something fantastic, how do I, and it might get me down. But there's something where the line is, where it's healthy, healthy competition versus straight up everybody making you feel can we swear?
Yeah, go for it.
Because everybody making you feel like shit because you haven't achieved something. There's that difference. I respect JP, and sometimes I would get I'll see what JP's doing and be like, oh man, I'll never, the same thing that you were just exactly saying. But then there's something on the flip side of it where I'm I get more determined and driven and empowered because one of my friends and peers is making it happen for himself. Whereas, something like the 27 Club, where I feel like it's this legendary, unattainable thing that everybody thinks that they should be able to get to. It's, I mean, and you can get there, but the point is that beats you down immediately. And I've gotten beaten down by things like that and not gotten back up for a long time. And that's not healthy, I think. And I think, especially like, like not even musicians, like normies, like regular people, like people who don't play music or don't know much about music, like they think that that's like, wow, well, you got to make it there or like whatever. And like that hurts us because we're trying to make something. For me personally, I'm not trying to make something like that. I'm trying to find the truest version of myself. And yeah, I don't know.
Well, it's tricky because I think sometimes people will say stuff to you at like events. Like I always find it's like, like a funeral where there's a lot of family and they'll ask you how you're doing, and then they'll kind of like try to relate what you're doing as a musician to something that they see, and they're obviously seeing like the absolute pinnacle of the sport. It's like saying like, yeah, I'm playing basketball, I'm on a team, like we're doing really well and stuff like that, and they're like, yeah, so when are you going to play against LeBron James? And you're like, oh no, like, but just because I'm not gonna be or am not in the NBA doesn't mean that I'm not doing something really amazing. And it's not that I don't identify as a basketball player any different, but you always walk away and you're like, man, they just took me down like 8 pegs and they were trying to be supportive. And it's really tricky, like, because that sometimes people don't understand that they ask you something and it's like defeating. That being said, though, in their own professions, I'm sure they have those same experiences too. Yeah. And we may be like, oh, so you're an accountant, I guess, this, that. And they're like, you don't even know what I do. But I think with artistry, because there's like so many roadblocks and it's such a personal thing, there's a lot for us to take. We get really sensitive about it.
Oh yeah, totally.
But it is. I also do marvel at artists that are on that career trajectory. Not to say that it ends at 27, but, like a Francesco Yates, for example, like, I saw you perform with him in Hamburg, Germany, and he might have been 20. And, sorry?
In Hamburg?
I saw you in Hamburg.
I wasn't there with Francesco in Hamburg.
At the Reeperbahn Festival?
No.
Oh, no, you know who that, the bass player for Alessia Cara.
Oh, yeah, it was Dean. Yeah, Dean was there. Yeah, that was that whole European thing. That was one of the only tours I've missed with him.
Well, I thought you were there.
Yes.
The thing about the Reeperbahn Fest and Oktoberfest is that they start to overlap after a little while. And I said to Mike Sleeth, too, I'm like, it was great seeing you in Hamburg. He's like, I wasn't there. I'm like, oh, well, whatever. I thought you were, but I saw him perform and I was like, geez, like I didn't sound like, and that trip was really cool because the whole backing band for an artist that we were playing with, it was like the first time I had ever been on a stage. We were at the Rivoli. That was the band. And now we were 28, 29 and we got to do this trip and it was this huge, like full circle. Everything's going to be all right. I can't believe we stuck at it, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But then to watch Francesco Yates be the age we were when we started and be performing and go, well, we didn't sound like that at that age. Like,
I mean, he's a very special case. He's just been doing that forever, right? Like, so it's the same with like somebody like Larnell Lewis. You have to think back, like they've been doing that since they were like fucking 6. Like, you know what I mean? Like, or 3 or something like that. When I was 3, I was playing with like Power Rangers and shit, like, and not having a care in the world. And like, and I think we've talked about this before, but even for me, I started playing bass when I was 16. I didn't even start doing anything music. I didn't really write songs. I remember writing poetry when I was like 10 or 11 or something like that, but I don't know if it's good. I don't know if, like, who knows, right? So I didn't really get this started. And I feel like my path trajectory has always been playing catch up with everybody, because I mean, even with like the old, like the Astro Droids band I had, when did I start that? When I was like 22 or something like that, 23. It was still exactly what you're saying. I felt leagues behind all the other bands already who were doing that. So now, and to be honest now, like I give so little fucks. I just want to like make music that I want to make, and I think my friend Mark Calderon, who's a great artist in his own right, who has a project called Nice Mark. He said to me he was watching what's that documentary called, with Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine.
Oh,
Uh,
I know which one you're talking
yeah,
about.
yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot what it's called, but he said and I haven't watched it. I have to watch it. I've been stopping myself from watching it because he said like it'll make you want to work, and I'm like, I don't. I want to
I don't
like
want to
chill
work.
out. So he said Jimmy Iovine said like that they put blinders on horses so they don't see the other horses, and like it's a very simple thing, but I thought about it and I'm just like, that's how I kind of want to be with like my own music, and that's how everybody should be about their own thing. So even with Francesco and that stuff, I felt the same when I first met him and he was singing. I was like, damn, this kid's like amazing. And obviously with JP and like, Satan, all these other artists that I play with, like I've always kind of had the blinders off and have paid too much attention to what's around me. And now I really want to get focused on like looking forward and focusing on my own trajectory, which I think COVID's allowed me to invest in myself a lot more than I would normally would, whether it is for my artist thing for Alexander Stain or for these bass masterclasses that I've been doing, like either one way or the other. I've really been trying to figure out where I want to go in my life, and I'm really not trying to worry about what everybody else is doing anymore.
Totally. But from my perspective,
Yeah.
I have a really different perspective of music. I think I have a really healthy perspective because of this podcast, because of talking to everyone.
Yeah.
I think like ultimately that's the goal of this podcast, is to make me feel okay. And it's been fantastic because I've realized that everyone I've talked to, like you included, are all confused and trying to figure it out. And, as you mentioned, Sate, for example, like I had Sate and I asked her about all these things that are just like, I have no idea how it ever came that she did all of these things. And she looked at me and she's like, I don't know either. I don't have anything now. Like, I'm as confused as you are. And so it's like, it's been really healthy. But on the flip side, I also got to say what's been really cool throughout this pandemic is it's been really encouraging watching you flourish. And you've taken this time. And it's not to say that just because other artists have decided to not release music or not be as prolific as you've been, like that's okay too. And I think that's really important to say right now, is it's like you don't need to. But since you have, it's been very encouraging. And what I saw as like a win for my, Alex St. Kitts fandom was watching the Lost Tapes live thing and looking at all of the artists that were on and seeing the former session bass player of those artists being on the same show as Alexander Saint, alongside Tyler Shaw, alongside Francesco Yates. That was really cool to see. And I saw that as, I don't know. I'll ask you, how did that feel for you to be included as like a solo artist as much as a supporting role with others?
It's fucking amazing. It's kind of like something that I think I really wanted for a long time, but either didn't pursue it because I've been playing bass for so long for so many people that it's like that becomes comfortable. And it's something that I really wanted, and I didn't know overtly that I really wanted, but it was like really. Like it doesn't hit. It's the same as like when I'm going to tour somewhere, I'm not even tour. I'm going on vacation. Like I don't really feel it until I get on the plane and the plane's going. So as soon as I saw it back, I was like, oh, cool. Like, you know what I mean? It was just a great experience and really affirming, because I've personally put so much work learning about, how to be an artist, how to run my own business, how to manage myself for the time being, and how to release music, and what do I want to be. Like there's so many questions, right? Which is like, I was not afforded that time in 2019.
Yeah.
But in 2020, I had all the time in the world. So I would and still I have time because, the government doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. So so I've just had a lot of time to like sit and figure out what I want to be and what kind of artist I want to be, but it translates into what other person that I want to be as well. Like how I want to live my life, how I want to I've never actually, I don't know if you've ever done this, but like I've never actually planned like 5 years into the future, like what my goals are. Cause as musicians, as like a professional touring bass player, I'm like living from day to day. You ask me, well, like what's happening next week? I'm like, I don't know, something. Like maybe nothing. I don't know. But now I'm trying really hard to look into the future, especially with Alexander Saint stuff, and figure out where I want to be, what shows I want to be playing, like what do I want the music to be doing, how do I want to be evolving, which is a lot to think about it, but it's really refreshing. And something like playing the Lost Tape live with those great artists. Like I've played shows with Tyler Shaw, not in his band, but like I've shared shows with Francesco and Tyler Shaw, and I've heard all about the Command Sisters and all these great artists, and it was really humbling that I could be considered among those people, and it makes me like really think that I can pursue this like full time. Like why can't I do it? Like why can't I write these? Why I'm just as good. It makes me feel, and that leads right back to what we were just talking about before. It makes me feel like I belong here, which is something I really needed because I was really not in a good space at the end of 2019. I feel like I was really searching for something and not hitting it, especially with bass. I was getting bored of bass, which is not fun. That's the instrument I love. I grew up playing. And, I've been fortunate to play with so many artists, but I really started disliking playing it. Like that's why I even made that dumb bass album, that like stupid thing.
No, but that was, well, first off, I gotta say, I'm really glad to hear that you feel this way, because I think that you deserve to feel that way. And it's encouraging, and I think that other artists should find this inspiring. And I'm sure that there are a ton of, session, people that got into the role of sidemen who look at the center of the stage, not in an ego way, but be like, I have something that I want to put out too, and never find the time. And we've talked about that many times. It's like, you never have the time to do both, in a sense. It's really tricky, but why can't you? I don't know. You have incredible songs. Like you could put your song, but you could put your songs up to any of theirs. Like I listened to them this morning. I listened to your songs just in rotation. I'm not like, oh, here's I'm supporting my friend. Like you just put them on and you live your life to them. And I'm really excited. But I did want to talk about the Dumb Bass project, because I think that there are a lot of people that were waiting for something like that. And I think that sometimes you'll do something on the bass and you're just like, oh yeah, whatever. No one wants to hear that.
Yeah.
And there is a small pocket of bass community in Toronto that you're tapping into going, yeah, we want to hear that. So
in the world. Yeah.
Well, and so was the idea of that album to blow off steam, in a sense?
Yeah, it was exactly that. I mean, it's funny that you say that, because I know people have been wanting me to do something like that, and I've been fighting it for so long. I just don't, I wanted to be a songwriter, and I still want to be a songwriter. I want to be taken seriously, and something like that, I found really would have taken away from that and put me back into that like bass player world. But I really love playing bass. Like even when I just pick it up like any random day and just start noodling around on it, it's just a lot of fun. It's a fun instrument that I understand like intricately, that I just wanted to have some fun on. So what I did was, honestly, I asked my friend Jonathan Coleman. I'm going to be name dropping, and
no worries.
You probably noticed that I do this because I like the way that you're supporting me. I love to support other people. My friend Jonathan Coleman has a band called Muscle Tough, and he's a great bass player. And he has a pedal board that looks like a spaceship. Like it's two pedal boards actually, and working in tandem, which is amazing. And I was like, I need some pedals, man. I need some inspiration. Like, what do you think? He's like, man, just go out and look for it. Like he gave me some recommendations. And then I went on Amazon and I bought some I have them here. I bought these Donner pedals. I did like a review on them.
Yeah. Those are cool pedals.
Yeah, dude, it sounds great for like, this pedal cost me like $50, if even that. And I started getting into this headspace and making these like crazy things. I mean, crazy. I still like things to be accessible, but like it's all bass oriented, where I was like, okay, what can I do with these, and like how much ground can I cover without using software plugins, without using like other instruments, without, I thought about singing and I was like, man, without me singing, like, what if it's just bass and me programming drums and like, what can I do with that? And that's what came of it. And man, it was so much fun. And the thing that was fun for me was that it also allowed me to work on my production, allowed me to like practice mixing, practice putting beats together, practice. Sorry, my dog.
That's okay. I got a cat that's all over me, so no worries.
So funny. Yeah, it allowed me to like practice all these different skills. So it wasn't only just like getting back into finding the love for bass playing. It was also learning new skills, which is exciting for me. I get really excited like learning new things, like practicing guitar and doing mixing and one day mastering. I hope I'll be able to learn that. Like my mixing's not amazing, but it's good enough.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was just like a really great experience. I've been thinking about doing the part 2 soon, like because I know that there's ideas rattling around. But man, it was just fun to be able to, like you said, like rip stupid things that like I would never really do on any other gig, but in like a musical kind of way. With these pedals too, it's just like it was like I'm having the best time.
And that's nice. And I imagine that it wasn't there wasn't a lot of pressure on. But and that's so. This is a big thing that I've experienced too because of this podcast, and having to use recording software to do this podcast. It's like your fingers are on the keys or the keyboard, or like you're executing, even though you're used to it, and you get more comfortable with completing things. And
Yeah.
sometimes when you're working on like a single or something, it's so daunting to like, it's like, oh, that's a cool bridge. Let me think about it for 4 months. And when you call a project dumb bass, I'm sure that a lot of it is like, fuck it, good enough. And truthfully, like it's more than good enough.
Right.
And I've probably told this story like 100 times, but the creators of South Park in that documentary 6 Days to Air kind of said they have to do an episode of South Park in a week, because if they spend a month on it, it's only going to be like 10% better.
Right.
And I think that with music, there's a lot of like machoism about perfection. And sometimes, you watch those Beatles recordings, for example, like even the Peter Jackson footage,
Oh, yeah.
they're having fun. Like these are timeless songs that we've heard our whole lives. Maybe that's some of the first music that like you and I have ever heard. And they were just having fun.
Yeah.
Like, and that doesn't mean that it wasn't meaningful or impactful.
Yeah. I'm trying really hard now to have that same thing with Alexander Stain, because I especially remember with like What You Need, especially the last single for it, like I was very stressed out about the release and like all that stuff. And I don't know, I just want to have fun in all things music, and actually doing dumb bass really opened my eyes to that other side of it. And being like, my goal for the next couple of weeks for Alexander Stain has been writing 2 demos like a week, just kind of like getting them out, whether it is like a full-fledged song on a voice memo or like me kind of like half producing something and then like putting it away, just for the fun of it, just to like the same way that I wanted to do for dumb bass, just really build that muscle back, like whether it was for bass or for my actual songwriting, and just like have fun doing it, like not really worry too much, just kind of like get the ideas going, because we didn't, we're not in music or I didn't start playing music to like make a ton of money. I started playing music to have fun, and as much as that is a part of my life, like as an income, there's something to be said to really try to find that love back in it.
Yeah.
And that's really what I've been trying to do, like with music. And Alexander Stain has been like a huge jumping point for that. Like even the masterclasses that I've been doing have really made me have fun talking about bass with people. Cause I remember like every week, like, you'd pass by somebody, whether at a rehearsal or like on another gig, another bass player, and we just stop and talk about bass for like half an hour. And I kind of missed that. So it was nice to like talk to people and like share some skills. I hope people got something out of it.
Well, as I couldn't do your second masterclass because I had my own live stream gig which was like the most important thing I felt like I was 13. Like I
Yeah,
probably packed my bass bag like 15 times. I was like, do I have enough? I had to like take 8 patch cords out of my bag. I'm like, I only need 3. Like, but it was like, it was that excitement. It was so important. And I savored every moment of it.
yeah,
Unfortunately, I had to miss the master class, but the first one that you did, I called a couple of my bass friends that I, just send each other like cool pedals and stuff. And
hmm
what was really fun about the masterclass experience with you doing it was the things that we talked about in the class were so small,
mm,
and they were so important, but they were not the things that you would think of. Like
right,
we went off on right hand playing on the click track, for example, like behind, on, over. And that was probably like 30 minutes. And I was thinking to myself, like, also because we had talked about it and I knew that you were, figuring out the master class, and you were having the concerns that everyone has when they do something for the first time.
right.
And I remember going through the Zoom chat, just looking at all these bass players that I knew and didn't know, but there they were with their basses or their notes, and they're asking questions. And it was so cool. And then I went to a rehearsal and we're playing on the click, and all of a sudden I start playing behind, on, over, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this was so good. Like for something that's so small, it was so big, and now I can't not think about it.
But that's what I love. That's what that exactly what you're talking about is how I felt when somebody told me, and I wanted to give that feeling to everybody in there because it's such a big thing that you don't think about it. Like you said, it's small, but it opens up so many doors, right?
Yeah. I don't think a lot of master classes or experience or communities are able to do something like that, because I think that a lot of people would have perhaps wanted to show something a little more that sounded like it was more than it was. And it would be like big lesson, small outcome, where you went with small lesson, big outcome. And it was really interesting for me to just apply these little things that change everything, opposed to you going over like, some sort of scale or something like that.
Right.
Those are very important too. And there's something I actually do want to ask you about privately. You did something like, oh, this, and I was like, what the hell did you just do?
Yeah.
But it was really great, and it was fun to just see the supportive community and people ask questions that you can't ask, like, to get super nerdy. Like my friend Victor asked about buzzing on the B
Yeah.
string, and you kind of say, you're like, oh, we're gonna get into that, like we're gonna get there, and every one of them was like, yeah, let's talk about the buzzing B string. And I guess I just have a really good bass, because it's like, what are you guys talking about? But and then but it was just so much fun, because when you the bass is a unique instrument. It has a very important role in music, and it's an unsung hero.
Yeah.
We've all seen those memes, like, if you really want to know the worth of a bass player, just have them stop playing or unplug during a set. But like I think it was really encouraging. It was so necessary, and it was something that I have been looking forward to. I'm excited for Masterclass 3, if that is a
Yeah.
plan.
I gotta tell you, yeah. I mean, I want to keep doing it. And for anybody listening that was there, and I guess for you too, like I am working on like a Patreon thing where I've just been like accumulating videos to just like put up on there and see how that goes. But I want to keep doing, because as long as it's the thing for me these days is if it's fun, like I'll keep doing it. Like it's and every those, like you said, the people in those master classes are so giving and want to be there and are so happy to talk about bass, whether it is something like, buzzing on a B string, which I realize I know entirely too much about. Like I think by doing these master classes, it's kind of like shed the light on how much I actually know about the bass, whether it is like gear or the bass itself or like playing. It's like I know entirely too much. I dedicated, which is not a bad thing. I'm not mad at it. I dedicated a whole whack of my life to that. But it's as long as I'm having fun and people like it, and people like what you just told me, even that story like really makes me want to do another one and really want to put some time into it, because that's all I want is like for people to just have a good time. Even lessons that I've taught, I'm like, what do you want to do? And they're like, well, of course I want to get better and I want to learn how to groove and I want to like learn. I'm like, yeah, but do you want to have fun or you just want to like, because that's like why I play bass and that's why I play music is like I wanted to have fun. And I know there's a lot of younger people out there younger bassists that just want to get better and just want to shed. But it's like, man, if I could teach one Humber class, it would just be like having fun with music. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because it's such it gets beat out of you. Like I was talking about before, either with gigging or sometimes with school. I felt pretty burnt out when I went to Humber, but yeah, it's it's not talked about a lot, the fun of playing music or the actual joy of like, sitting with a bass or sitting with a guitar or just like jamming with some friends. Like I felt bad because last year some friends asked me to jam on bass and I was like, no, I'm not interested because I was just so over playing bass. Like, you know what I mean? Because I know what the function of what I'd have to do was. There's no wiggle room like dumb bass or whatever. It's just kind of like you play the bass. And I'm like, I'd rather like write some songs. Like if you guys want to write some songs or something, I'm into that. But I've come back around where if somebody called me now to jam, I'd be like, hell yeah, let's do it. Because I'm happy with what the function of the bass is in those scenarios. And I'm happy balancing that out with my songwriting self. You know what I mean? So I just wish that, and that's what's so fun about teaching those master classes is I see the joy in some people's faces, like when they're sitting there, like, and something's getting unlocked. That's what I like about teaching. And that's what makes me want to keep doing it.
Well, and I think too, like it was fun looking through the list and like, for example, like Gina from Alter by Mom, who's playing with the Mono Whales and Sky Wallace, like she's in there and she's someone who's regularly been on the podcast. And, she's someone that is also doing the same thing that you and I are doing. And they're like, and keep taking steps and keep progressing. And it was cool to see her in the chat too. Like there was just such a varying group of different artists looking for different things. And also I feel like, as a disclaimer to maybe non-bass players listening, the B string is the lowest string on a 5-string bass that it is got the lowest amount of tension. So there's a lot of buzzing. And it's just, that's the concern about it. Just in case you're very confused about what that was. But a couple of nerds. But I think that it's really cool because I think that there are sometimes a lot of artists that are, want to have fun by continuing to learn in a safe spot where you can ask a bunch of questions that people aren't going to roll their eyes at.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Speaking because we were talking about bass and nerdy stuff and the Dumb Bass Project, because of trends that are going on right now, have you ever thought about restringing a right-handed bass upside down?
Oh, man.
Because there's Mono Neon, there's a Toronto bass player whose name escapes me, but there's a lot of artists that are left-handed. Their right-handed basses are way more accessible, so they learn how to play upside down. Jesse Aaron from Alan Raymond is an upside-down guitar player. And these artists seem to be getting really, really, they have these beautiful sounds and it's different. And I was curious if you've ever thought of toying around and playing an upside-down bass.
Next question. No, I'm just kidding.
No. I honestly, I was just thinking about that today because I saw Corey Wong, who plays with Wolfpack.
Yeah.
He released a video where he had an upside down bass by choice.
Okay.
And I just thought, is this the new trend?
It's not a new trend. It's just, I mean, that's cool. There's nothing, I mean, but I don't know. What do I want to say about it? It's interesting. And like, if you're a left-handed bass player, like Jimmy Haslip's another person that I remember. That was the first person bass player I saw. And then for those who don't know, Jimmy Haslip's a bass player in the Yellow Jackets and a bunch of other things. Man, Jimmy Haslip, I gotta go listen to some. He's fucking awesome. You ever listen to any Jimmy Haslip bass player?
No,
dude.
Okay, I'll listen to it later.
Super
yeah.
Slick. Super slick. But I remember listening to him and seeing that, and it's super cool, and it's a thing. And I don't know, I don't particularly want to do that. I guess the thing that'd be cool about it for me is it unlocks different patterns, different things for your brain. It'll definitely make your brain work in a different way, right? But
yeah,
I don't know. I'm just like, half of me, it's kind of like fret raps. Half of me is like, why? Like, why don't you just mute better?
Yeah.
But that's me being biased because I like, and then in the first masterclass, that's what we talked about was how many different techniques I employ to stop my strings from ringing at all times, right? And like how neurotic I got about that. I don't know, it's to each their own, man. If that's what's up, like then that's what's up. But I don't understand like why I would want to do that. So you're saying on a right-handed bass, he flips the strings?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you're playing you by choice, not by necessity. You're playing the strings upside down. So you're going from the highest string to the lowest string, whereas usually you'd go lowest string to highest string.
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand why I would do that apart from a look thing. It might look cool and
But it would only look cool to like me. Like, you know what I mean? Like the people that would come up to me like, that's so cool. You'd be like, oh, you play bass too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't quite understand what the gain would be by stringing it that other way.
I think you just play differently, like because of where the strings are. If you were going like index finger to ring finger, for example, in these similar patterns that you're used to playing, it would just sound different. So then you'd have to play it backwards, and then when you're playing it or upside down, your fingers go to different spots. You play a lot of like your high notes are more defined because you're able to like hit them with your thumb at the top.
I guess the one thing that for me would be like, but are you aiming to play the same shit that you were playing before? That's kind of like where that like ends up to me. Like it's kind of neat, and I don't disagree that it unlocks exactly what you're saying, like different modes of playing. But then if your end goal is to sound like a bass player, like, you know what I mean? And like, and I don't mean that like facetiously. I mean, as any of the great bass players that we all kind of emulate, then like so you took like a detour, like a long detour to get back around to kind of the same place. And I haven't done any research on this. I would actually love to go watch some people playing this, but maybe I'll go watch Corey Wong play.
Yeah,
and see.
I'll send you the video because I saw it just before we started this conversation, and it was the first person that had consciously made this decision, and I thought like it's really interesting. And Jesse Aaron, who's an incredible guitar player.
Yeah.
I had this. I wrote a song, and he was hired as the guitar player. We went to Buffalo, and in Buffalo, which you're not allowed to go to right now.
Yeah.
There's a studio called GCR Recording, and what's it called, a nunnery, I think, but it's this unbelievable studio. It's incredible. It's like 20 minutes from the border. The Goo Goo Dolls own it, who are Buffalo royalty.
Yeah.
They bought this studio, and we plugged Jesse into a Leslie speaker, and we just sat in the room while he played like Jimi Hendrix licks. And as the Leslie speaker came around, it just hit you in the heart. But I was very aware, this was like 10 years ago. And I was just very aware that he had like a different sound because he played the guitar upside down. And then these, Mono Neon, for example, who's a huge bass player right now with Ghost Note, and he's very popular. He has a big YouTube channel. He plays upside down. And then I'm just starting to notice like all these different people playing upside down. I don't think it's a gimmick, but now I think it's starting to become a gimmick. People are making this conscious decision to play upside down. So,
but is Jesse and Mono Neon, they're left-handed upside down?
Yeah. So like they, for Jesse, I think like his grandfather had a guitar
and he just flipped it.
And so he just had to flip it.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Yes. With the guitar, that's when I think about that makes a lot more sense to me than a bass flipping it upside down, because then you get stronger bass note. Like I find when I'm playing guitar, I have like, especially acoustic guitar, it's like I have a harder time trying to get like the G's really, or like whatever, like lower notes to ring out, and the higher notes are never a problem because they're like, it's just there. You hit them and it's there. But if you flip it with a guitar, you have better control over the higher notes.
Yeah.
And like what you want, and you can choose and get to where you want on the notes. Well, the bass still doesn't make much sense to me. But as like a right-handed bass player, it doesn't make much sense to me. But I don't know. I'm sure people will come out and like, I don't know, man. Like I'm very over, like I can't watch like Instagram bass videos anymore, and like those like I can't watch that shit. It just really like it puts me into like a bad mood because it's because as much as like some of it. I mean, I think that's my problem. Some of it isn't in ingenuity. It's really just for the gram or like for whatever, or like for speed or whatever. And that's not interesting to me. I'd rather watch, Pino Palladino, or like, who's like, oh man, who is this younger? Like even that there's a young, this must be like, I don't know, 13-year-old bass player that just like rocks like just like some grooves and like some slappers. And I'm like, I can watch that. That's cool. But I can't watch somebody just like shred or like flip their bass over and be like, check this shit out. And I'm just like, that's like, but what's the point? Like, are you gonna play a gig and people are gonna be like, sick, man? Like, that's what's up now. It's like, no, nobody's gonna fucking care.
No. And if they do care, there are going to be other bass players that follow you on Instagram. And
like sorry, go ahead.
No. And that's okay. It's just, I think that you and I, particularly as bass players, know that the only people paying specific attention are other bass players.
Yeah. And there's people like think for instance, like, and we're getting real into like bass nerdery now, which I haven't done in a long time, which is actually starting to get me excited. Think about like Rich Brown. I'll listen to fucking Rich Brown play anything. And that dude sometimes plays nothing. He's been doing YouTube videos, bass tutorials, which you should all check out because it's unbelievable. And and in the last video I saw, there's just like a second clip of him playing, I think with his band, Rinse the Algorithm back in the day. I could be wrong. Sorry, Rich, if I'm wrong. But he's just playing like a very simple, like half note groove. And I'm just sitting there listening, being like, this is the best thing I've ever heard. Like, just his tone is amazing. His feel is amazing. Just his ideas in like slight little movements are amazing. That's the shit that impresses me, like, to no end. Like, you could be the most chopsy bass player of all time, but there's fucking 10 of you chopsy bass players. Can you find me somebody like Rich Brown who can do that shit, but when he does do the chopsy shit, I'm really like leaning in to see like what it is he's doing. And like, whereas, I'm not trying to knock anybody, but like Hadrian Farode or like some of these gospel bass players that are on Instagram, I'm like, yeah, it's like, that's fine. It's very fast. And it's like, that's cool. But like with some of the Rich Brown, he's like, it's like the way that I want to write music and you want to write music for people, he's doing on the bass, which is he's talking to you. He's telling you a story. He's explaining something to you, which is just like, even in his grooves, I was just like, how are you going to get any better? Or like even and I'll mention him forever because he's like one of my mentors and my all-time favorite bass players, Pat Kilbride, is like the same. It's just like, there's something about the way that these guys play that really sticks out to me in like a world of, and they can do all the fast, like crazy shit, but like, it's not about that. It's about like, how do I economically get economically get that across on my bass, and B, how do I make you understand what it is that I'm trying to say? Like with Kilbride, it's like, it's my time to shine, motherfuckers. Like, here's some shit that's gonna blow your mind. And I'm like, yes. And then with Rich Brown, it's like, either it's like, I'm gonna like warp your mind with these very melodic lines, but then I can also do the speed, but you don't know what this is. And I'm like, I have no idea what that is, but I am on board with you 100%. I'm just like, I'm very over Instagram, like for the gram playing. It's not interesting to me anymore. It's like everybody's doing it and it's very vapid. I mean, that's social media in general. It's all very vapid. And I'm a culprit of it because I'm like on it too. And sometimes I'm doing it because I know that I can get more followers or whatever that way. But it's just, I'm tired of, I haven't even been posting on Alex and Kit's Instagram that much because I don't like doing it. Like I tried chasing that thing, like, you know what I mean? We're all chasing that, like, well, if I put the captions in the reels and like do something kind of cool, and if I edit it cool, then I'll get more. And I'm like, for fucking what, man? For some people that like don't actually give a shit about what you're doing one way or the other. They just want to say like, I was going to put Toronto back into a Toronto box, and but you can watch our last podcast for that. I'm going to skip over that. You got to go back into the All About the Song catalog and check that. But
episode 109.
I'm over it. And that's what got me tired about bass playing in general, was just that like stupid competition for things that really don't matter. Like, you know what I mean? So
it's tricky right now, especially. And I think that there was this post that kind of went viral, and it was a collection of, and it was artists being thought of as content creators is the worst thing that's happened.
Yeah.
And I saw that, and like, I was really pleased. And it's funny because I feel like right now I've had the most to post about, but it's been because it's something like it's a podcast like this one. So, hey, go check this out. But it's been relieving to even just read that kind of stuff and be like, yeah, I don't have to, like, I didn't write this song to post it on Instagram. Like,
Yeah.
I wrote this song to write a song. And if you, and I've been thinking a lot about this. Like we've moved so far away, and I produce a classical radio show, which has been so awesome. It's Classical Underground on CIUT
Right.
Wednesdays 6 to 8.
Yeah.
But those artists, when you watch them performing, like we watch, if I'm watching like the YouTube video and that song will be put on, those artists who are playing the most insane music, the top artists of the world, they're sitting there with sheet music in a room that sounds good,
Hmm.
and it's all about how it sounds.
Yeah.
And it's all about listening to it. It's not about strobe light. I love strobe lights. It's not about strobe lights. It's not about throwing around your bass.
Yeah.
It's not about all of this like trickery.
Yeah.
It's about this person, and the most amazing thing that they have in terms of assistance is that their instrument is superior, and they play so like Chris Thiel
Mm.
or Yo-Yo Ma, Chris Thiel, yeah, Yo-Yo Ma. Like these artists, like they're not. No one's flipping around the cello or anything crazy. Like they're looking at the page and they're performing, and you just close your eyes and you listen. And you go, wow. You
Yeah.
don't. That doesn't translate to TikTok.
I mean, yeah, I'm so glad that you brought up that point because I feel like especially the last year because there's no live music, everybody's been trying to find the next best thing and like everybody thinks that it's like social media and like it's there's nothing really that's going to replace live music in that feeling. So it's funny now that people are kind of starting to see that toxicity that comes along because we all knew it was there, but like nobody really wanted to talk about it because you got to keep putting shit out and you got to keep trying to get followers and engagement. But like a lot of fellow artists that I've been talking to have just stopped. I mean, myself included, have stopped doing stuff because it's just like, what am I like working towards? Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I get, if I like post, if I follow the schedule of Instagram, which is like you're supposed to do 1 to 3 stories every day, like a post every 2 days, like an IGTV every week or every 2 IGTVs every week. If you follow that schedule, it just burns you out, and it makes you look like what makes you stand out from anybody else. And this is not knocking anybody because I totally understand and I was doing the same thing, but it's like what makes you stand out from doing like the latest Justin Bieber cover or playing multiple covers a week or what's any different from the literal millions of other people doing that? Like what do you actually have to say within this? Like, you know what I mean? And it's hard because you want to follow the content, but I said fuck it, and I have not. And I post only when I want to, and only when I have something to say. And like, I felt a little bit like I wasn't paying attention to the landscape of the world because sometimes I post on days that are not. You should be thinking about other things like International Women's Day or like you know other big days where the focus is not about me. It's not about me and my music. It's not about and that's humanity. That's something that we're like severely lacking in that world is like recognizing somebody else's humanity and their time to shine. Like it's not my fucking time to shine. Like just because I want you to hear my cover of fucking James Blake or whatever. But it's really like creating art again for yourself. And like it's been like really great for me like not having this posting schedule because I can actually write music. I can actually practice my guitar. I can actually like hang out with my fiance and my dog. I can actually enjoy life. And I feel like there's a severe quality of life that's been lacking trying to fucking follow trends. And my buddy told me the other day something really interesting, which isn't surprising to anybody, by the way, on TikTok, which is obviously one of the largest growing and rapid fan base accumulating platforms right now. You know how there's been artists getting signed TikTok deals essentially based off the songs that they put out that have gone viral. They're starting to dump those artists now because the thing that I would have said is like, well, what do they have to offer down the line? You're a one hit wonder, or like this is the thing that you do, but you don't have like a like you don't, like what you said before, like you don't write something and then sit there for 4 months and be like, well, what do I actually want to like do with this? What do I want to say? Like you don't actually, there's no artistry behind it. It's just like, I'm going to make this because I know it'll get big. And then the companies recognize that and take it. But then where does it lead to after that? So now a lot of these record companies are like regretting signing these artists who have nothing else to offer, like no musical knowledge, no writing skills, not really any talent. They can kind of sing, but like have no trajectory, no career path. It's just, or not even career path. They have no path, and it's so obvious to me. I could have, if I was sitting on that board, I would have been like, why are we hiring? Why are we getting this person? Because they're big now. It's like, and so you got your money now, but down the run now you just have an artist you can't do anything with. Sorry, that was a big rant, but
No, it's true, but it's very true, and I think that it's really tough, and I feel unfortunate for artists that blow up like this. And
yeah,
I do have a friend, and my brother works for a company called RX Music, and they did this really cool podcast talking about TikTok and the evolution of music. And I do know some artists that are riding some cool waves, but just like everything, like they've hit something. For example, there's an artist named Whaley who has gotten TikTok viral because he surfs the Great Lakes in the winter, and he has a mustache, and the mustache gets like all icicle. And he
right,
does it with Tal Weisman, who I play with in Kadima, and it's really cool to see.
yeah,
The thing that I acknowledge with the success he's having on a social media platform is that his artistry is not for TikTok.
mm,
He got big because he has something that hits really well with an algorithm, which
yeah,
is my least favorite word. And I feel great for him because of all this hard work that he's been putting in for 10 years,
mm,
that all of a sudden, something clicked. But if your artistry is all indicative on this platform and making it on this platform, what do you do with next? Like, not to say like, how do you monetize this artist, but like, how do you just like sit around, smoke a joint, and be like, I'm gonna do a dumb bass album. Like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. I don't have to worry about all of a sudden, like, if I won a lottery ticket per se, how do I win another one? It's like
yeah,
you just got to be yourself, and you got to be free. And you look at some of the artists that have hit the highest heights, and
yeah,
to bring it full circle to like the whole concept of like 27 Club, like and Jim Morrison and Jimi Hendrix and stuff, they hit those high highs, and it was to their detriment ultimately.
right. Yeah, there's a lot of lessons to be learned from those guys in that whole situation, and this whole, even like TikTok itself. Like I hated TikTok for the I like it now, and I like it because now it starts to show, like any platform, it starts to show you what you want to see, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of funny. But then I do like look at other people's stuff, and I'm like, is this really like what this is? And I'm starting to realize quickly for my own music, like, because I tried, like I said, playing that game. Like I tried doing those
Yeah,
skits and doing all that shit that people are doing on it, and my music isn't very conducive to that. It makes it like it sounds like a bit like your friend. It kind of puts me into a different space where it doesn't align properly with what I want to be as an artist. And the thing that's great about like getting those deals like your friend got, or getting like something that makes you money, is like you get a great cushion, and like there's nothing wrong with being an artist and making money. I want to make, let's be very clear for anybody listening. I would like to make money off of my music, and I am not ashamed of that.
of
That's like
course, and you
totally great.
shouldn't.
Whatever you got to do to get that money, like if it aligns with what you want to be as an artist, get it. But I find TikTok and that does not at all align with what I want to be as an artist, and it gets you pigeonholed. It like really puts you into a certain place. Like it's weird to listen to podcasts now, eh? Like ads, and people are like, and on the podcast, TikTok artist, this, and I'm like, what? It's a TikTok artist. Like,
It's weird, and it's also, I don't know how long
gonna
it's just
last.
because at one day that's not going to be the popular thing,
Yeah.
and you're going to have to like, what all of a sudden do you do? Like, do you switch over, or how do you make a name for yourself? There's
Mm,
lots of artists that have blown up on social media platforms,
mm,
but that's because they're an artist is how they have lasting power, and because they're focused on something other than making it on the platform.
yeah,
You
exactly.
got to, look at Jacob Collier, for example, who's this unbelievable artist. And I love watching him on Instagram, and he does some cool stuff. But he can also play with Herbie Hancock or Stevie
Yeah.
Wonder or Quincy Jones and all these people. He's able to do something really fun. John Mayer, for example, is like really great at all sorts of social media stuff, but he is also incredibly fantastic at playing the guitar. And
I'm
it's,
writing songs. Fuck.
geez, like every time I say something that he's good at, I'm forgetting three other things that he's really superior at. And it's really tough. I guess in like, to cap it, or to like distill what we're saying is, it's like being an artist is such a hard thing to do, and ultimately you're always going to be searching for the answer,
Yeah.
but there's never a shortcut, and sometimes these social media things feel like shortcuts.
Yeah, and that's how we should all be looking at it as. It's either a shortcut or, I mean, if you use it as like just a landing page just for people to discover you, like discovery branches, like that's great, but like don't let it be your life, and don't let it be like your thought of a streamline to like star power. I mean, and it may very well be, but is it going to be the star power that you want, right? Like the thing that makes Jacob Collier and John Mayer cool is exactly what you said. Like they're already like really prolific artists in their own way, whether it is playing like Jacob Collier or like songwriting. Like John Mayer has so many hits under his belt that, yeah, I'll fucking go watch his shit on TikTok and on, because it's like, I know it's just going to be cool, but it's hard to justify. And it's so funny. I hate to be that guy. That's a good lyric. I should say that for later. but, but, uh, I sometimes will like look at people's pages for my own benefit as an artist, like figuring out how to navigate social media landscaping. But like, I also am curious to see who's doing the exact same shit. And it's crazy how many people have literally the exact same content that doesn't tell me about them as an artist or like what their music is particularly. I mean, I can gather by the colors and like the way that it is. It's like, oh, you're like R&B, or like, oh, this is like a rock band, but it doesn't tell me about them. Like I don't understand. And that's kind of like, I think with my own shit, like even my own music or even how I present myself to people, I'm really thinking hard about how do I want to, like, what do I want to tell people about myself? So I don't want to, for myself, I'm trying really hard not to be vapid, which is hard not to do on social media because that's what everybody else is doing. But I just want to really be honest with myself and like my music, and I want people to see that. And
Mm-hmm.
it's I mean, it's tricky on social media because you always got to make like the best posts and like all that kind of stuff. But that's what Lost Tapes was great for. I mean, not only the thing with Francesco, which is great, but like I got to talk a bit about being a mixed race person and how that affects me and not feeling represented in a lot of genres that I want to be a part of. Which is cool. And I'd like to talk more about that because I think there's a lot of people, especially a lot of like mixed race kids, that really feel the same way, like not knowing where to fit, or like living between two worlds but not really belonging to one, and like all that kind of stuff. It's interesting. So that's kind of like where my head's been at with social media and songwriting and all that stuff. But like I can't let it take over my life anymore. I'm just so fucking tired of it. It's like really draining.
And you can't wake up in the morning being like, what am I going to post about? You just be
Yeah.
like, what's my day going to be?
Yeah, what am I doing today? Today I'm gonna go play my Nintendo Switch for an hour. I'm gonna play with my dog. I'm gonna maybe try some songs. Maybe I'll pick up some bass. You got me inspired to try out some basses. I got my chalk bass back finally, which is
Oh,
nice.
nice.
Yeah,
Oh,
which
that's
is great.
fantastic. Well, I have a non-music thing to tell you about that I've been meaning to call you about. You've been a big fan of Retro Kid. You're
Yeah.
wearing your Retro Kid sweater. I got mine in the back.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. They announced their new drop. I'm like such a big fan. But I didn't really. So it's a partnership of two people, and one of them is Eric Bauza, who is now the voice of Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck and Marvin the Martian.
Awesome.
This blows my mind, and you're the only person that I thought could appreciate it. Space Jam 2.
Yeah.
He's the voice in Space Jam 2 with LeBron James. It's like LeBron James, Eric Bauza.
That's amazing.
How crazy is that? Like, I was like, that's cool that he's the voice of Bugs Bunny and stuff. But I think it's so amazing that a Scarborough resident is going to be co-headlining, the marquee with LeBron James in Space Jam 2. Like, how cool is that?
That's so fucking cool. Good for him. Congratulations, Eric. That's amazing. Fuck. Yeah. That's it.
Oh my God, so wild.
Yeah, I love that. I love that company too, man. That new drop. I have never watched Bloodsport. I have to go watch Bloodsport.
I know, me too, because I'm going to be wearing this weird clothes, and I feel like people are going to be asking. So for those who don't know, Retro Kid is these two Scarborough residents' love letters to the shows that they grew up watching, and they've done all these different things to encapsulate old television shows that we grew up on, like The Raccoons or Inspector Gadget. Yeah. I have, his name's with the tickle trunk.
Oh, Dress Up.
Mr. Dress Up. I got the Mr. Dress Up sweater, and I think it's like such a cool thing.
Yeah.
But Alex, to cap this off, last off, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really needed this conversation today. I'm really glad we did it. What's next for you?
Man, it's just keep working on Alexander Saint's stuff. I'm releasing a single in June. And then hopefully, working on a new record for next year. And I mean, if I can play some shows, that'd be nice. But also hopefully get the dumb bass up and running and do some more masterclass stuff. It never ends, man. It's just like I'm trying really hard to stay busy, stay positive, and just keep working on things that I love to work on. So, hit me up on the gram or wherever, or not, because we just talked about how to gram stuff. It's like, I don't know.
You can write Alex a letter at... Oh, amazing. Yeah, awesome. Man. Thanks, Alex.
For having me, man.
This was fantastic. This is why I do this podcast.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank Alex for being on the podcast. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions for a guest you'd like to hear on an episode, send us an email, allaboutthesongpodcast@gmail.com. You can listen to the podcast at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you do, we are there. And if you could rate and review, that would be fantastic. But if you are watching or you'd like to watch, check out our YouTube page, the Sounds Like Songs Network. We put out this podcast every Tuesday. Yeah, we do, which is crazy. And it's been a lot of fun to continue to do this amidst such a crazy time, but it has been an absolute passion for me and for the whole team, and we look forward to bringing you an episode each and every week. So for Alex St. Kitts, aka Alexander Saint, I am Michael McDonnell. Episode 133 is in the books, and we'll see you next week.